Discover how a shocking decision cost a CEO the hidden talent of a single father who spoke Arabic. Ahmed glanced at the drawings scattered across the small dining table. Bright colors congealed into shapes of long-forgotten smiles. Layla had spent hours doodling pictures of her mother, creating a collage of memories that felt like silver daggers stabbing deep into his chest. He was a man once revered for his mastery of language, now reduced to navigating the city's busy streets in a taxi, drowning in the bitter drop of loss and financial strain. 3 jobs weren't enough to lift the weight of grief. How could he secure a future for Layla? The uncertainty gnawed at him. A demon he couldn't slay. His mind drifted to the hours spent teaching Arabic on weekends at the college, where he once held his head high and shared his passion. Now, those halls felt like a lifetime ago. He cringed at the thought of how society's biases, etched deep like scars, made it difficult for men like him to be respected for more than just the color of his skin or his marital status. Ahmed inhaled sharply. He was fighting against the storm, but no one seemed to see him. On the other side of town, David polished an emerald corporate vision, driven through arrogance. The decision to dismiss Ahmed's community college for a vital partnership felt justified. He turned to his executives, framing his reluctance with the gloss of business sense. A single father? Could he really offer anything of value? It was a question laden with bias, and David recoiled at the thought, a man twisted by his own assumptions. What lay behind the curtain was still unseen, an entire world of brilliance hidden within Ahmed's passionate resolve. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As darkness weighed heavily on Ahmed, desperation turned into determination. The app he spent drenching twilight hours developing became a catalyst for self-rediscovery. Each line of code was a pulse of invention stitched together by love, driven by Layla's wide eyes and the yearning for her roots. Would his efforts ever be recognized? Would tenacity break through the walls of prejudice? But with every sleepless night coding, he felt the tinge of doubt. The world could be cruel, and he grappled with the thought of rejection, a familiar ache to be overlooked yet again. A sense of failure murmured in his ears, fighting against the flicker of hope ignited within him. Each expectation felt heavier than the last, and he feared that his ambition would lead him down a path of further disappointment. As whispers of his app began to escape the confines of his small world, David stumbled upon it. A fleeting moment of realization struck him. Could he have misjudged Ahmed? In that split second, an epiphany hit, shattering his previous perceptions. The stakes were high, the weight of years grinding together misconceptions and untapped potential. Both men were on the brink of a revelation, each unaware of the critical juncture they approached, tied by the relentless grip of societal bias and personal ambition. Would David grasp the opportunity in time to make amends? And would Ahmed transcend the storm of doubt that threatened to swallow him whole? A thunderous clash of ambition and dreams tightened around their fates, leaving nothing but uncertainty tethered in their futures. The morning light filtered through the thin curtains, casting a golden hue upon the clutter that filled Ahmed's modest living room. Code sprawled across his laptop screen, lines blurring as fatigue wrapped him in its suffocating embrace. He blinked hard, fighting the urge to succumb to sleep. With each keystroke, he breathed life into his app, but the weight of doubt loomed heavy, each moment steeped in the fear of inadequacy. The echoes of Layla's laughter from the previous day stirred a complexity of emotions within him. Her innocent joy was a stark contrast to his internal turmoil. She had drawn another picture, this time of them together, under an expansive glowing sun, a reminder of simpler times. It was those fleeting moments that propelled him forward, igniting a fire in the pit of his stomach. His determination surged anew, morphing despair into a potent weapon against his darkest thoughts. If only he could match their lives with the brightness of her drawings. He summoned clarity amid the chaos. Ahmed made a pact with himself. He would see this project through, if not for his own sake, then for Layla's future. With meticulous precision, he refined the app, developing its core purpose, an interactive platform bridging language barriers, designed to connect individuals across cultures. Each word meticulously chosen, every feature envisioned with love. This was not just code, it was a manifestation of hope in its purest form. Meanwhile, David found himself increasingly drawn to the unexamined decisions he had made in his role at the firm. As he explored Ahmed's app, layers of arrogance began to peel away, revealing the depth of potential he had so carelessly ignored. The sleek design belied the authenticity woven within its function. Two worlds colliding, one representing vibrancy, and the other the cutthroat business landscape he operated within. Unease settled in his gut as he faced a growing awareness of the biases that had influenced his choices. Every instinct screamed that he had underestimated Ahmed, marginalized him based on preconceived notions. But the question now echoed more pertinently: how to rectify his mistake? The urgency became palpable as he navigated corporate agendas and his own faltering confidence. He could not ignore the gnawing sense of accountability. It was clear that talent had slipped through his fingers like water. As Ahmed delved deeper into his app, dreams of teaching language ignited with renewed vigor. The thought of offering a haven for those seeking connection propelled him into action. He envisioned community workshops, bringing people together to foster understanding through shared experiences. Yet self-doubt whispered trepidations about the feasibility. Would they embrace him? Would his efforts be met with dismissal, just as before? Handling rejection had become a familiar companion, yet hope persisted against all odds. Determination burned brighter at this critical juncture, each obstacle an opportunity to shatter the shackles of his previous existence. He wrestled with his ambition, weighed down by the fear of failure. Every day felt like an uphill battle, yet he rose each morning, intent on proving that he was more than a tired father in a taxi. He was an innovator, a voice clamoring to be heard. What Ahmed didn't know was that David, caught in the crosshairs of his own professional monologue, was about to set a plan into action, aimed not just at supporting an app, but at fostering a deeper relationship with Ahmed. A collision of past misconceptions pulsed into a newfound respect waiting to be ignited. As both men stood on the cusp of transformative journeys, their paths would cross before making irrevocable choices. Yet the burning question lingered. Could they seize this moment to build a bridge between their worlds, or would fear ultimately tether them to their past mistakes? The tides of change were rising, and it would take courage from both to sail forth. The echo of Layla's laughter faded into a faint memory as Ahmed adjusted the brightness on his laptop, his eyes scanning the lines of code that seemed to pulse with life. With every keystroke, he fought against the fatigue settling in his bones, determined to craft something impactful amid the chaos of his daily existence. Each feature in his app became a distant promise, a whisper to connect worlds that often remained apart. Yet it was the lingering shadow of doubt that threatened to drown out his perseverance. Would anyone bother to use his platform? The questions gnawed at him, each one more insidious than the last. Ahmed paused, allowing himself a moment to reflect on the purpose behind his work. This wasn't merely an app, it was a vessel for dreams. He imagined the faces of those who would benefit, the connections forged through shared words and experiences. His personal mission intertwined seamlessly with the aspirations of those he aimed to lift. To clear his mind, he set aside the laptop and opened Layla's drawing, the one depicting them under a warm sun with vibrant colors. He squinted at the strokes, tracing them with his eyes as if to absorb their innocence. As he contemplated whether he was worthy of such joy, A surge of determination clawed its way up from his gut. In that moment, he dared to dream bigger. What if he could run workshops? What if he could teach language concepts not just through the app, but in real life, bringing families together and creating a community of understanding? The idea sparked a restlessness in him. He envisioned discussions, laughter, the clinking of glasses as culture and language intertwined, an intoxicating blend of stories and dialects. But the weight of practicality pressed heavily. How could he, a man without the backing of an established entity, make such an endeavor come alive? Fear crept in, an unwelcome guest reminding him of past failures. Yet, with it came the resolve to dismiss that nagging voice. It was time to move. He opened his laptop again, fingers dancing over the keyboard, catalyzing ideas into actions. He drafted emails to local community centers, schools, and even libraries, expressing his desire to host informal workshops exploring language and culture. His stomach churned with anxiety, but each word filled him with a sense of empowerment. This was the moment he had to seize. As he hit send, floodgates opened. Ahmed's thoughts raced ahead to workshops well attended, stories exchanged, laughter shared. But amid this vision lay uncertainty. Would they be accepted? Would he experience rejection once more? Meanwhile, David's sense of urgency heightened as he considered how to approach Ahmed. The realization hit him like a jolt. He needed to approach with sincerity and humility. Behind the gloss of his corporate life lay a stark truth. He had misjudged Ahmed's potential for long enough, and deep down, an unfamiliar need swelled, a desire to atone for past misconceptions. As he crafted his own emails, reaching out to key contacts within the firm to discuss the potential partnership with Ahmed, he felt a resurgence of energy. This could transform not only Ahmed's project, but his own perception of success. A gradual, burgeoning realization swept over him. Collaboration could lead to breakthroughs neither had anticipated, but those intentions were shadowed by the looming risk. Would he be viewed as keeping up the facade of a corporate titan, or could he genuinely embrace Ahmed's vision and uplift him in the process? Each decision carried weight, a precarious balance between ambition and authenticity. Each man stood poised on precipices of their own making. As Ahmed sought to realize a dream forged in hope and fear, David struggled with the echoes of arrogance that haunted his ambition. The threads of their journeys were weaving closer. Yet, unbeknownst to them both, an unexpected obstacle loomed on the horizon, threatening to unravel their hopes. The moment when their paths would irrevocably intersect felt imminent. Would they seize the opportunity to reshape their worlds, or would past mistakes drag them into silence once more? Time was ticking, and the pressure surged. What they didn't know was that outside forces were already at play, nudging them toward confrontation, and, perhaps, profound transformation. Ahmed stared at the screen, the blinking cursor mocking his hesitation. The mere act of crafting emails had, in an instant, morphed into a monumental task. Each message required a part of himself he had not fully acknowledged, the vulnerability of asking others to believe in him, to align with his vision. Yet that burgeoning anticipation mingled with an acute sense of fear. The prospect of rejection loomed large, threatening to suffocate his budding ambitions before they could take flight. With each email he sent, he felt a flicker of something he hadn't experienced in a long time. Hope. It ignited a desire to catalyze change, not only in himself, but in the community surrounding him. He envisioned small gatherings where laughter and language blended into a symphony of shared stories. But could he really orchestrate such a venture? He wondered if he had the charisma to draw people in. He had always been a quiet observer, hesitant to take the spotlight. Doubt clawed at his insides again, wrapping tendrils of insecurity around his resolve. He shook his head, dismissing it. He had overcome obstacles in the past. Surely, this challenge was no different. His passion for reaching out, for creating a space where families could bond over their diverse heritages, was compelling enough. People yearned for connection. They craved understanding. Still, the question lingered. How could he make it happen? As if in answer, Ahmed picked up his phone and thumbed through contacts. The name of an old colleague surfaced, Sarah, a dynamic figure in community outreach. Her enthusiasm often ignited sparks among reluctant individuals. Surely she could offer guidance. The moment she answered, Ahmed jumped into his pitch, explaining his vision with an infectious enthusiasm he hadn't anticipated. But as he spoke, he could sense Sarah's hesitation. It sounds wonderful, Ahmed, but you know how these things go. It requires considerable resources and support. Her words were a cold splash of water against his simmering hope, yet they brought forth an unsettling truth he hadn't fully acknowledged. It was one thing to dream big, but could he sustain that dream without a solid foundation? I understand, he replied, an edge of disappointment mingling with resolve. But I believe it could be achieved without a heap of resources. It's about connecting people. That's priceless. A long pause followed before Sarah responded. It might just take a lot longer than you expect. Are you ready for that? To navigate through those bureaucratic hurdles? Her question hung heavy in the air, bringing Ahmed face to face with the reality of his ambition. He glanced towards Layla's drawing, her vibrant colors anchoring him. Yes, I am. The words spilled from his mouth as certainty blossomed within. Before he hung up, Sarah agreed to meet and discuss further, both exhilarating and daunting. The core of him craved reassurance on this uncertain path, and here was a glimmer, a stepping stone into the realm of reality rather than dreams. On the other side of town, David sat behind his polished desk, grappling with self-doubt. He had meticulously crafted messages to influential contacts, but wrestled with his underlying motives. Was he ready to invite vulnerability, to admit that he could have misjudged Ahmed? His preconceived notions clashed with the realization that he admired Ahmed's tenacity. David recalled the subtle depths of Ahmed's passion, how it stood in contrast to the corporate lingo he had thrived in for years. Would collaboration truly yield the innovation they both needed? The question gnawed at him, pushing him to pen emails, yet anxiety surged beneath. What if he failed to create a genuine partnership? His finger hovered over the send button, echoed by the unrelenting sensation of time slipping away. Had he become so encased in his role that he risked missing out on the very talent that could reframe success for them both? As they each embarked on this daunting yet potentially transformative journey, a sudden storm of external challenges began to gather, unseen but imminent. Decisions loomed like shadows, waiting to cast light on hidden truths, and the prospect of failure began to herald itself in their minds. The moment of reckoning was close, and each man had to confront what mattered most: persistence or comfort, connection or isolation. Would they rise together or remain divided by their pasts? Ahmed's pulse raced as he approached the quaint cafe where he and Sarah agreed to meet. The "you can do this" mantra echoed in his mind, but doubt seeped in with every hesitant step. Would she genuinely understand the urgency of his vision? Would she get lost in the logistics instead of the heart of what he wanted to create? As he entered, the warm aroma of coffee enveloped him, strong yet soothing. He spotted Sarah seated at a corner table, her businesslike demeanor juxtaposed with the relaxed ambiance. Her smile was bright, yet he could detect a flicker of seriousness behind it. They exchanged pleasantries, but Ahmed felt the weight of their discussion pressing down on him like heavy fog. After a few moments of chit-chat, he cut right to the chase. "I believe this initiative can build bridges between cultures, Sarah. It's not just about the events. It's about fostering understanding and acceptance." She nodded, but remained silent, her scrutiny intense. Finally, she leaned forward, a hint of urgency in her tone. "Let's envision this together. What does it look like on the ground? How do you attract people? He hesitated, his initial enthusiasm crumbling under the pressure of specifics. I imagine we could hold small gatherings, perhaps start with local stories, invite families to share their experiences. Language could be our medium, and food could be the catalyst. No one can resist good food. Sarah raised an eyebrow. That's all fine and good, but how do you reach out to people? You can't just hope they will come. Flyers? Social media? The words felt flimsy, and he could sense her skepticism. This won't happen without a concrete strategy, Ahmed. Community outreach requires more than just curiosity. It needs a plan, funding, connections, perhaps even partnerships. A wave of dread washed over him. Funding. At that moment, he found himself standing at the precipice of reality. What if he was wrong? What if those obstacles Sarah mentioned were insurmountable? The vulnerability of being an aspiring changemaker surged like an undercurrent beneath his resolve. But what if we start small? What if we just focus on creating a few intimate settings to test the waters? His voice quivered with the weight of his plea. Sarah sighed. Testing the waters is important, but it must be organized, consistent. You need a structure, a strong foundation. Otherwise, you risk falling into chaos. They devised a plan over the next hour, a tentative outline for the gatherings, potential dates, ideas for how to reach out to participants. Yet, each new point brought fresh apprehension. Each discussion felt like a tightening noose around his ambition. As they wrapped up, Sarah looked directly into his eyes, her expression serious. Do you truly believe you're prepared for this? It's important to evaluate your commitment. You'll need resilience. Ahmed felt her words penetrate deep, stirring up whirls of uncertainty. Was he truly ready for this challenge? Did he possess the resilience necessary to push through inevitable setbacks? On the drive home, questions consumed him. Would people take a chance on his vision? Would he be able to break through the layers of apprehension that encased his aspirations? That night, as he reviewed the notes from their meeting, an unsettling realization dawned on him. This venture was less about logistics and more about his capability to embrace risk. It would force him into the light, away from his comfort zone. The thrill of pushing the boundaries was intoxicating, yet terrifying. The following morning, he found himself drafting outreach messages, summoning every ounce of determination to shake off the shadows of self-doubt. As he tapped away, Ahmed became acutely aware that he stood at the crossroads of his future. His identity was at stake. This was as much an emotional journey as it was a professional one. But just as clarity began to crystallize, another thought pierced through. What if he was wrong? What if all his efforts were in vain, swallowed by a tide of indifference? With a deep breath, he hit send for the first time, a mixture of anticipation and dread washing over him. As he paced around the room, phone in hand, he couldn't shake the feeling that the real test of his resolve was yet to come. And then, a message arrived. It wasn't from Sarah, or any of the contacts he hoped would respond. It was an unexpected volley from David, the CEO he had least expected to hear from. His heart raced at the unknown consequence this new communication might unleash. The moment of truth was drawing near. Would the response be an opportunity, or a final confirmation of his deepest fears? The chime of his phone echoed in the stillness of the room, reverberating with anticipation. David's name glowed ominously on the screen, sending Ahmed into a cyclone of emotions. His heartbeat echoed in his ears as he slowly opened the message, a mix of trepidation and hope swirling within him. Ahmed, I saw your outreach proposal. I'd like to discuss it further. When are you available? The message was curt, but it crackled with potential. Could this be the breakthrough he needed? The prospect of a meeting with someone of David's caliber could lend credibility to his fragile ideas. Yet the weight of the unknown pressed down on him. Would he rise to meet this opportunity, or crumble under the expectations? The following days felt suspended in time, each hour stretching painfully as he prepared for their meeting. He scrutinized his notes. Should he refine his pitch, or maintain the essence that had initially inspired him? Anxiety fueled his desire for perfection, triggering endless cycles of revision. That quest for clarity brought him face to face with his insecurities. He realized he was not just defending an idea, he was defending himself. In the moments of quiet reflection, he understood that his vision stemmed not merely from a desire to erode cultural walls, but from a deeply personal history that shaped his identity. Through stories shared at home and around community tables, he'd witnessed the beauty of diversity. Each interaction had etched lessons into his psyche, igniting a fire for cross-cultural dialogue. With each passing hour, a lump of fear cemented in his throat. He feared that when he showed his vision, he would be met with the skepticism that had unsettled him before. What if David's dismissal mirrored the judgments of others? But along with that fear surged a stubborn ember of determination. What if he succeeded? What if this was a turning point that not only transformed his present, but also the future he envisioned for others? On the day of the meeting, he wore a crisp white shirt, a borrowed confidence in the fabric against his skin. As he stepped into the sleek office building, the decor, from the polished wood to the oversized windows overlooking the city, smoothed out the edges of his anxiety. Yet, each footfall echoed in his mind as a countdown to confrontation with his deepest vulnerabilities. Ahmed. David welcomed him with an air of casual authority, motioning toward the seating area. Let's see what you have. Time slipped into rapid motion as Ahmed unleashed his carefully crafted pitch, weaving together stories and statistics, hopes and realities. He spoke not only as a man with an idea, but as someone driven by the transformative power of connection. And by collaborating with local businesses and utilizing social media, we could attract diverse participants, he concluded, inhaling deeply, heart racing. David leaned back, an unreadable expression skimming across his face. I appreciate your passion, he began, but I need to know how you plan to sustain this interest over the long run. What's your fallback plan? How will you pivot if initial efforts fall flat? It was a valid question, one that caused panic to creep through Ahmed's composure. The possibility that all his preparation could be rendered moot in the face of one critical inquiry felt both humiliating and sobering. Suddenly, the weight of his ambition threatened to suffocate him. I could create an evaluation framework, gather feedback to iterate and improve our approach, he stammered. But even as he spoke, uncertainties recoiled deep within him. Was it enough? David's eyes narrowed slightly, contemplating every word. That scrutiny felt invasive, metallic as it pricked at his confidence, testing every thread of his resolve. I see potential here, Ahmed, but I need assurance. This city thrives on results, he continued, not enthusiasm alone. The stakes were higher than Ahmed had anticipated. Torn between self-doubt and his fiery aspirations, he felt the strangest sensation propel him forward. The truth surged from within, igniting a spark. He knew he cared deeply about this vision. What had started as a risky endeavor was morphing into an opportunity to dig deeper and confront not only the challenges ahead, but the doubts that had haunted him. As they continued to engage, a rhythmic back and forth unfolded, and Ahmed started to feel an unfamiliar sense of control taking root. This was not merely about convincing David. It was a test of his belief, the foundation upon which his future was built. By the end of their dialogue, the door had opened wider than he had anticipated. They had reached a tentative agreement to explore further, but just as Ahmed began to bask in that small victory, David's final note floated through the air like a whisper on the wind. But what if you fail, Ahmed? What will you do then? The question hung heavily, exposing the raw essence of failure. It echoed back all his fears, demanding an answer. Could he summon the courage to confront failure? The crux of his journey was still unfolding, the real battle yet to be fought. As Ahmed left the office, those words replayed in his head, deepening the pulse of resilience swelling within him. What would failure look like anyway? Would it be something to fear, or a lesson waiting to be learned? Another text chimed in, demanding attention. A new message from a close friend. It was time to unlock another layer of understanding about himself. The journey was just beginning, and he could no longer escape the impending truth. Ahmed sat in his small, dimly lit apartment, the faint glow from his phone screen chasing away shadows that danced across the walls. The weight of David's question pressed on him like an anchor, holding him back from the buoyancy of possibility. "What if you fail?" echoed in his thoughts, a chorus of doubt intermingled with the flickering flame of determination. He felt the collision of anxiety and ambition stirring within him, a potent mix begging for direction. He opened his friend's message, which simply read, "Let's grab coffee. I want to hear how it went." Just the thought of sharing his experience felt like an escape, a chance to unpack the emotional baggage he'd accumulated. As he typed back a quick affirmation, he was struck by the sudden realization that he had never truly explored what failure meant to him. Meeting his friend at the local cafe, the smell of freshly brewed coffee wrapped around him, contrasting sharply with his turbulent thoughts. Sam noticed his distant gaze. "You look like you've just walked through a storm," he remarked, his brow furrowing with concern. Ahmed chuckled lightly. "You could say that. I just met with David about my proposal." "How did it go?" Ahmed paused, weighing the best way to articulate his experience. "It was intense. I walked in with passion, but I was questioned about sustainability. David wanted to know if my idea had legs." The caffeine coursed through him, mingling with his agitation, but it was also a catalyst. Sam leaned in, genuinely intrigued. "What did you say?" "I mentioned creating an evaluation framework, but..." He trailed off, uncertainty creeping back. The coffee shop buzzed around him, mirroring the confusion in his mind. "But..." Sam prodded gently, a supportive presence anchoring Ahmed's racing thoughts. Ahmed took a deep breath. "I realized I was only scratching the surface. There's a lot more I could bring to the table, but can I really stand behind my proposal if things go wrong? Can I face scrutiny if it doesn't deliver?" Sam shifted slightly, serious now. "Every great idea has risks. It's in navigating those risks that we learn the most about ourselves, and more importantly, about our capabilities. Maybe failing isn't the end, it's an opportunity." That struck a chord deep within Ahmed, reverberating through his self-doubt. Could he embrace the possibility of failure as a necessary teacher? That concept seemed methodical, yet foreign, offering new pathways to explore. Was there more to his identity? Layers of resilience and strength he had not yet acknowledged? After the conversation, Ahmed felt a shift within himself. An awareness began blossoming. He needed to expand his vision beyond merely proving himself. Instead, he could illustrate personal growth through failure, transforming fear into fuel. His mind darted to the overlooked aspects of his life, wondering what hidden talents he could showcase beyond his initial proposal. As he walked home, he passed an ancient oak tree, standing tall amidst a busy street, a reminder of endurance amidst adversity. The tree's roots dug deep into the earth, belying the strength it mustered against storms. What if Ahmed could intertwine his narrative with that resilience? What if he could build a strategy that embraced risk rather than shunning it? Inspired, he hurried back to his apartment, determined to explore new dimensions of his pitch. He powered up his laptop, mind racing with ideas. Community dialogues, partnerships, evaluation methods, and growth metrics. He began crafting a new framework, envisioning each failure as a stepping stone toward success rather than a pitfall. Hours melted away, and as he finalized his revised proposal, an undeniable sense of clarity broke through. The journey ahead, albeit fraught with uncertainty, was becoming crystallized in his mind. He was no longer hindered by despair, but energized by possibility. Yet, just as he clicked to send, his phone rang again, David's name flashing across the screen. Ahmed felt a surge of adrenaline. The time had come to face the core of his vulnerabilities once more. What awaited him on the other end? Would David respond to this new vision, or would it lead to confrontations with his innermost fears once more? Each passing tick of the clock sharpened the anticipation buzzing in his chest. Ahmed stared at his phone, the glow illuminating the apprehension etched across his face. Each vibration seemed to pulse through him, matching the relentless drumming of his heart. Taking a deep breath, he swiped to answer, feeling the weight of expectation settling heavily on his shoulders. "Hi, David," he greeted, trying to sound more confident than he felt, the tremor in his voice betraying him slightly. "Ahmed, good to hear from you. I just got your revised proposal. It's quite different from the last one," David said, his tone professional yet curious. "Thanks," Ahmed replied, nervously rubbing his palms against his jeans. "I wanted to incorporate more depth, to really shape it around potential challenges and outcomes." David paused, the silence amplifying Ahmed's anticipation. "I appreciate the effort. However, the revisions also introduce some complexities. Can you clarify a few points? For instance, how do you plan to address the long-term sustainability issues I raised?" Ahmed felt a flicker of dread, yet he was determined to articulate his thoughts this time. "I've laid out a strategy that includes collaboration with key stakeholders and continuous evaluation. My goal is to pivot based on feedback, ensuring we're adaptive rather than rigid. It's not just about the initiative, it's about creating a living framework that can grow and respond," he explained, drawing on the lessons he had just learned from his earlier conversation with Sam. "Interesting approach. But what happens if the initial feedback is negative? Will you reconsider the entire project?" There was a sharpness to David's question that pierced through Ahmed's resolve. Ahmed could feel the ground shift beneath him, the uncertainty clawing at him. "I see it differently now. If we receive negative feedback, it shouldn't be viewed as failure. It's insight that can lead to improvement. I want to embrace that. It's part of growth." "What if embracing failure costs the company? What will your response be then?" David's voice took on a challenging tone. It was a test, an attempt to prod Ahmed into revealing deeper insecurities. He hesitated, wrestling with the tension between honesty and professionalism. Could he articulate the vulnerability behind his perspective without compromising his position? "I believe that we need to redefine failure rather than avoid it. If my project doesn't meet expectations, I'd view that not as a personal failure, but as a collective learning opportunity. It's about analyzing what went wrong, why it went wrong, and how we can move forward." David was silent for a moment, as though weighing Ahmed's words against a mental checklist of expectations. "You present a compelling argument, but it does put the risk squarely on your shoulders. Are you ready for that level of responsibility?" "I am. I've come to understand that true responsibility isn't just about shielding against failure, it's about leading through it. I want to encourage a culture where we acknowledge mistakes, learn from them, and emerge stronger." His heart raced. The commitment behind his words felt like a shift within him. This was more than just a pitch. It was a revelation of his own beliefs and values, a kind of resilience he hadn't realized he could express. There was an audible shift in David's tone. Softer now. "You've clearly put thought into this, Ahmed. Let's schedule a meeting to discuss your strategy in detail. I think we're getting somewhere." Ahmed exhaled, an overwhelming sense of relief washing over him. "Thank you, David. That sounds great." After hanging up, the adrenaline ebbed away, leaving Ahmed with thoughts swirling in the aftermath. Not just about the proposal or his fragile conversation with David, but about the evolving mindset that seemed to unfurl inside him. What if his newfound courage to embrace scrutiny and vulnerability became a catalyst for transformation in his career? As he sat at his desk, poised to make notes on feedback, he realized the real challenge was not only about professional achievements, but also about vocalizing the truths he had kept bottled up. Who could he become by valuing transparency over perfection? But before he could jot down his thoughts, another notification lit up his screen. This time, it was an email from a potential partner, asking for a meeting to discuss collaboration. Ahmed's pulse quickened again. What new doors could this open? What personal risks would it entail? He couldn't shake the feeling that his journey had only just begun. He was at a crossroads of self-discovery and professional reinvention, each decision a brushstroke on the canvas of his future. As he prepared to respond, a haunting question lingered. Was he truly ready to take the plunge into this evolving landscape of collaboration and potential failure, or would he turn back when faced with the unknown? The next step loomed ahead, shadowed yet promising, a path leading into uncharted territory. Ahmed leaned back in his chair, fingers hovering above the keyboard as he contemplated the email. Each word he typed felt like an echo of the decisions that lay ahead, resonating deeper than mere business strategy. This wasn't just about a potential partnership. It was about navigating the intricate layers of his own professional identity, each layer an obstacle he had only begun to confront. With a flick of his fingers, he composed a thoughtful yet assertive response, expressing his eagerness to explore mutual opportunities. But as he hit send, a wave of unease washed over him. What if he misrepresented his ambitions? What if this chance fell flat like the ones before? He cleared his throat, the air thick with uncertainty, and decided that fear could no longer dictate his choices. Ahmed rose from his desk and paced the room, his mind racing with possibilities. He silently rehearsed the conversation he'd have with the potential partner. What unique insights could he offer? What questions would challenge the status quo? It was unsettling yet invigorating to consider that his deep understanding of both local nuances and broader market dynamics could set the stage for a groundbreaking collaboration. His phone buzzed again, jolting him from his contemplation. It was a reminder for the meeting with David, an opportunity that layered itself upon the uncertainty of the email response. He couldn't help but reflect on how much he had changed in just a short period. The back and forth with David had awakened a resilience he didn't know he possessed. It demanded clarity in his aspirations and a commitment to his values. For the first time, he could see his future, not just as a sequence of reactions to circumstances, but as a playground for his intentions. He returned to his desk, tapping a few keys to pull up David's latest feedback. The remarks glared at him like reminders of the old Ahmed, the one who second-guessed himself endlessly. Now, though, he felt the echo of his previous discussions building into something more powerful. Responding to David's critiques with nuance rather than defensiveness had fortified his resolve. It wasn't just a conversation about a project. It was a step into vulnerability that might lead to greater authenticity in his professional relationships. This revelation urged him to dig deeper. As he stared into the pixels of his screen, facing the flashing cursor, he recognized that this venture could reshape how he operated entirely. Ahmed opened a new document titled Strategic Insights for Collaboration and listed out his strengths. He had linguistic skills, fluent in Arabic and English, that could help bridge communications. His analytical mindset would allow him to dissect market trends and find novel applications. As he listed page after page of potential contributions and strategies, an unsettling tension emerged. The mirror of his past hovered behind him, and he questioned whether he could truly forge ahead without succumbing to self-doubt. Would he once again freeze in the face of criticism? Or had he learned to embrace the discomfort of growth? A loud knock on the door broke his concentration, and he jumped. It was Sam, his colleague, and a recently appointed mentor. "Hey, I heard you were prepping for your meeting. Want to run through your points?" Ahmed hesitated. Part of him wanted to say yes, but the other part of him itched to confront these revelations alone first. In that moment, he recognized a critical juncture. He could either seek validation or wield his internal strength. "Actually, I think I'll be good," he answered, surprising himself with the firmness in his voice. "I want to go into this meeting fully prepared on my own." Sam looked surprised but nodded in acknowledgement. "Awesome, man. You've got this. The meeting's in 30 minutes. Let's catch up afterwards?" "Definitely," Ahmed smiled, feeling a spark of determination ignite within him. As Sam closed the door, Ahmed returned to his notes, scanning for ways to articulate his vision without trepidation. The shadows of any previous failures began to recede. Clarity began to crystallize. With every word he penned, confidence replaced doubt. In this moment, he wasn't just a player in the game. He was learning to be a strategist. But as he prepared mentally for upcoming discussions, whispers of fear lingered. Fear of misjudgments. Fear of faltering under pressure. Could he truly harness the lessons carved from vulnerability to elevate his work? Leaving the thoughts unreflected, he stood ready to confront whatever awaited him. But his heart raced not from anxiety, but anticipation. For redefining himself, for stepping boldly onto a path laden with potential, and for the chance to transform the very fabric of his professional identity. In that charged silence, he understood. The real journey was just beginning. Would he embrace this chance for transformation? Or would shadows from his past pull him back into limbo? Ahmed stepped into the boardroom, the polished table reflecting a light that highlighted not only the grandeur of the moment, but also the culmination of his internal journey. As he prepared for his meeting with David, the CEO who represented both a potential ally and the echoes of his past doubts, a surge of clarity washed over him. This was the moment he had worked tirelessly towards, not just to present a business proposal, but to assert his worth as a talented individual capable of leading significant change. "Thank you for coming, Ahmed," David said, his tone neutral but attentive. "Let's dive back into your proposal." The tension in the room was palpable, yet within Ahmed surged a solid confidence. He had transformed his original idea into a comprehensive strategy, enriched by feedback and personal growth. Each element of his proposal was not merely a point on a slideshow, but a reflection of his resilience and understanding of the intricacies of collaboration. He took a deep breath and began. "David, I appreciate the opportunity to refine my vision. I've integrated diverse strategies to ensure sustainability through collaborative partnerships and community engagement," he articulated, a steady rhythm resonating in his voice. "I believe that each failure can illuminate paths for improvement, and this initiative will pave the way for transparent dialogue." David nodded, a flicker of interest sparking in his gaze. "I'm intrigued by your focus on adaptability, but what measures will ensure that you pivot successfully when challenges arise?" With each question David posed, Ahmed felt the echoes of self-doubt from past experiences attempt to resurface, yet he clung tightly to the lessons learned. "I propose regular feedback loops from participants, allowing us to adjust our approach effectively. Also, by establishing a community advisory board, we can bridge the gap between various perspectives." A moment of silence enveloped the room. As David considered Ahmed's words, the air thickened with a blend of apprehension and anticipation. The CEO's gaze remained thoughtful. The tension of potential rejection loomed yet again. But this time, Ahmed welcomed it. He had prepared to face scrutiny, and he was ready to showcase the growth that had sprouted from vulnerability. "Your commitment is palpable," David finally said, leaning forward slightly. "But can you assure this board that you can handle the operational side of this project, especially the metrics of success?" "Absolutely," Ahmed replied, a renewed vigor coursing through him. "I plan to incorporate data analytics to track participation rates, cultural impact assessments, and community feedback. The journey from inception to outcome will reflect a structured yet flexible approach." David raised an eyebrow, perhaps impressed by Ahmed's comprehensive response. "It sounds like you've anticipated the challenges. But what if the early results don't meet expectations?" Ahmed's heart quickened, but he met the question with unwavering resolve. In every setback lies an opportunity to learn. I'll see those results as crucial indicators to recalibrate our efforts. Success should always be defined by growth, whether it's in numbers or stories shared. As the meeting progressed, the conversation flowed with renewed dynamics. Every question forced Ahmed to dig deeper, and somehow his confidence magnified his ability to confront discomfort head-on. They explored potential implications, strategies for inclusive communication, and practical next steps. Ahmed, you've demonstrated a depth of understanding that is critical for this project's success. I want to see this initiative launched with you at the helm, David concluded. A shift in authority marked every syllable. The words unleashed a tidal wave of exhilaration within Ahmed. He had not only presented an idea, he had proven his competence and resilience. There was no tremor of doubt shaking the foundation he had built. Instead, each new layer of assurance solidified his identity as an innovator and leader. As Ahmed left the boardroom, a rush of emotional clarity enveloped him. He was no longer merely the single father hustling between jobs. He had emerged as a figure whose voice could shape communities and foster genuine connection. Ahmed's vision would not just bridge cultural gaps, but also reflect his journey of unwavering dedication that had transformed struggles into triumphs. Later that evening, Layla's drawing caught his eye, a vibrant depiction of them under a vast sun. A pang of nostalgia flowed through him, grounding him in the importance of this moment. He would dedicate not just his success, but the entirety of this endeavor to her, proving that dreams were constructed through tenacity and love. He distinctly felt the weight of his past burdens lift away as possibilities began to unfold before him. Striding toward a future glittering with opportunity, Ahmed realized the significance of all he had achieved. He had not only conquered the professional realm, but had also cultivated a profound personal growth that defined who he was. And as he mulled over the next steps for his initiative, a resolute thought anchored itself in his mind. He would not abandon his newfound sense of self for the status quo. In this moment, Ahmed triumphed. He had redefined his boundaries, rewritten his narrative, and he was ready to embrace whatever came next with bravery. Before embarking on this empowering journey, I urge you to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, comment your reactions and theories about the ending, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. You need to subscribe now to continue witnessing powerful stories of personal overcoming.